as we continue with the end times sequence of event, we are now on the event or a milestone. As I said, you can either call them events or a milestone. In this particular one now, we are referring to the Yahusha, or rather we are referring to the time when Yahusha reigns here on earth for 1,000 years. Other people call it the year of, the millennial reign. Other people call it the millennial reign, but it's where Yahusha will be reigning, for 1,000 years. And this is also termed as the seventh day, because if you recall that the word tells us that to Yahuwah a day is like 1,000 years. So from the time of the creation, we have been counting years, and so Yahusha then will reign physically here on earth on the 7,000th year, which is otherwise known as, if you look at the same principle of a day in Yahuwah is like 1,000 years, it will be the 7,000 years. And that's why we also see the whole importance of observing the weekly Sabbath. So on the seventh day of the week, it's the week when we are not working. It's the week where we are on the seventh day of the week, it's the day when we are resting. The seventh day of the week is the day that is dedicated to the worship, adoration, honoring Yahuwah. That whole day is dedicated to Him. It's the day of rest for us and our families. And when we look at the 7,000th year, that will also be the year where Yahusha will be ruling and reigning here on earth, which will be the time that we are most looking forward to it, because as we live right now, Hasatan is still the God of this world, or the Elohim of this world, which happened when Adam died. We read about this in the book of Luke chapter 4, where Hasatan tempted Yahusha after he fasted for 40 days when he was hungry, basically at the beginning of his ministry, that Hasatan said, "Bow down to me and worship me. I will give you all these kingdoms of the earth, for they have been given to me." They are with him right now, and they have been with him since the fall of Adam, which is so many thousand years ago, and it will continue to be with him until Yahusha comes on the 7,000th year. So basically after 6,999, if I use the term, it will still be with him. But the good part with this is that when Yahusha came, he gave us an opportunity that even though we are in the world that is ruled by Hasatan, but we are not of the world. And through our belief and obedience in Mashiach, in Yahusha Mashiach, the curses of the world are not applicable anymore to us if we walk in obedience to Him and to His word. Now, what does the word tell us then about the seventh day, or the reign of Yahusha for 1,000 years? In the book of Revelation chapter 20 verse 4, it reads, "And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahusha, and because of the word of Yahuwah, and who did not worship the beast nor his image, and did not receive his mark upon their foreheads or upon their hands, and they lived and reigned with Mashiach for 1,000 years. So this word in the book of Revelations, which we just read right now, it is telling us in Revelations 20 verse 4, who will be reigning with Yahusha HaMashiach for 1,000 years? Those who did not receive the mark of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of the beast. Those who also were beheaded because of the witness that they bore of Yahusha, which I spoke earlier on around having the even if kind of belief that a lot of believers will be beheaded. We're speaking about the times of distress, the times of matter, that they will be killed for their believing in Mashiach. Such people are the ones that will then live and reign with Yahusha HaMashiach, and those who will stand the test of the times of distress. For even as Yahusha said, that those who endure till the end shall be delivered, and they are the ones that will then be with him for 1,000 years. They are the ones that we spoke about earlier on when we spoke about the first resurrection, that those who will be alive when Yahusha comes back, and those who have died in Mashiach, together they'll be caught up in the cloud, and then they will then be with Yahusha HaMashiach for 1,000 years. And then if we read the book of 4th Ezra chapter 7 verse 39 to 43, 4th Ezra chapter 39 verse 4th Ezra chapter 7 verse 39 to 43, it reads, a day that has no sun or moon or stars or cloud or thunder or lightning or wind or water or air, darkness or evening, morning, summer, spring, heat, winter, frost, cold, hail, rain or dew, no noon or night, dawn or shining of brightness of light, but only the splendor of the esteem of Aluam, by which all shall see what he has been determined for them, for it will last for a week. This is now a week, referring now to the 7,000th year. Revelations chapter 20 verse 1 to 4, it then reads, Revelations 20 verse 1 to 4, and I saw a messenger coming down from the heaven, having the key to the pit of the deep, and a great chain in his hand, and he seized the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil, Hasatan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the pit of the deep, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should lead the Goyim, or the Gentiles, or the foreigners, no more astray until the 1,000 years were ended. And after that he has to be released for a little while. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahusha, and because of the word of Yahuah, and who did not worship the beast, nor his image, nor received his mark upon their forehead or upon their hands, and they lived and reigned with him for 1,000 years. Now, this 1,000 years, Yahusha HaMashiach will be reigning for 1,000 years, but also in that 1,000 years, Satan will be bound for 1,000 years, and he will no longer be in a position to influence the people and to cause people to sin, as it is the case right now. Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 2 verse 1 to 5, it reads, Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 2 verse 1 to 5, it reads, the word that Yeshayahu or Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Yehuda and Jerusalem, and it shall be in the latter days that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah is established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all the goyim shall flow to it. And many people shall come and say, Come, and let us go to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of Aluah. Continuing. Let us go, come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of the Aluah of Jacob, or Jacob, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in the paths for out of Zion, or Zion, comes forth the Torah, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. And he shall judge between the goyim, or the Gentiles, and shall reprove many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not lift up sword against nation, neither teach battle anymore. O house of Jacob, come and let us walk into the light of Yahuwah. So, who are these people now that Yeshaya or Isaiah is referring to in chapter 2? Because the first group would have been resurrected, and they will then, or those that are dead will be resurrected, and those that will be alive at the time will then be caught up together with those who are in the clouds, and their bodies will be transformed at the time, even as the word says, when he appears as he is, so shall we be also in his appearance. Now, that is the time that is now making a distinction, that you will now be having a group of people who, before Yahusha HaMashiach comes for the second time, they are obeying the Torah. They are obeying and seeking the ways of Yahuwah. Those people will then be transformed. But those that did not make it at that particular time, in that 1,000 years, because Hasatan will no longer be there, they will then come and say, let us go and learn and be taught the Torah of Yahuwah on Mount Zion. Those that rejected to receive the teachings of the Torah right now, later, if they would still be alive, that's another rider, because then if they're no longer going to be alive at the time, there won't be any opportunity of being redeemed again, rather of being redeemed at all, not even again. So it is important that as we speak about the importance of learning the Torah, the Torah being the instructions of Yahuwah, the commandments of Yahuwah, learning his instructions, learning his commandments, and not only learning but obeying them, doing them now. Because if you don't do it now and you are dead by that particular time, it's too late. But those who will be alive at the time, then they are the ones that will then walk and say, come, let us go to Mount Zion and be taught the instructions or the commandments of Yahuwah. The book of Micah chapter 4 verse 1 to 4, it says, and in the latter days it shall be that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah is established on top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow to it. These are the people who would not have walked in obedience to the Torah at the time, who will now be flowing to the mountain of Yahuwah. The prophet Yeshaya or Isaiah prophesied about this. The prophet Micah or Micah also is prophesying about the very same information. It continues to say that they shall say, let us go to the house of the Aluah of Jacob, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For out of Zion come forth the Torah, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. And he shall judge amongst many people, and reprove strong nations, or Goyim, or Gentiles afar off. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up their sword against nation, neither teach battle anymore. But each one shall sit under his vine, under his fig tree, with no one to make them afraid. For the mouth of Yahuwah Tsabaoth has spoken. So in almost word for word, Prophet Micah is quoting or is saying what also Yeshaya or Isaiah said. Again, I continue to warn people, admonish people to say, hear, for you have ears to hear. Continuing in the book of Yeshaya or Isaiah chapter 65 from verse 20 to 25, it reads, no more is an infant from there going to live but a few days, or a few yomim, no an old man who does not complete his youth, or his days of the youth. For the youth shall die at 100 years old. Let me just read that again. Yeshaya or Isaiah chapter 65, Isaiah 65 from verse 20 to 25, it reads, no more is an infant from there going to live but a few days, nor an old man who does not complete his days, for the youth dies at 100 years. So if at that particular time, which is, what time is this? This is the time of 1,000-year reign. This is the time of the millennial reign, where Yahusha is reigning with those that were resurrected, first resurrection, and those that were alive at that time. Anyone who dies at the age of 100, they will be seen as dying as youth. But the sinner being 100 years old shall be lightly esteemed, and they shall build houses and inhabit them, plant vineyards and eat their fruits. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For the days of my people are going to be as the days of a tree. Now we know how long a tree can last. And my chosen ones outlive the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth children for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed one of Yahuwah, and their offspring with them. And it shall be that before they call, I answer, I will, and while they are still speaking, I hear. Wolf and lamb feed together. A lion eats straw as an ox, and dust in the snake's food. They shall do no evil, nor destroy in all my Koresh mountains, says Yahuwah. This is the time that we are referring to, that will take place in the 1,000-year reign. And this also reminds me of also this time of 1,000-year reign, that where Satan or Hasatan will be bound also for 1,000 years. It reminds me of a dream that my son also shared with me 4 years ago, which was 2020. So this was the 29th of April 2020, and he was 14 at the time. And he says that he actually had a vision. It was not a dream, because he was not asleep. He said he was just sitting in his bedroom, and then he started feeling a bit dizzy, and then he felt that his heart started pumping slow, and somehow it then drifted into a trance, which he called it a sleep. But at that time he was conscious of what was happening, but was not fast asleep at the same time. He says that as this scenario where he finds himself, that he was not fully asleep, but at the same time he was not fully awake, and his heart pumping slow, he then said, if I die right now, will I go to heaven or will I go to hell? That's what he was asking himself. And then he convinced himself that no, surely definitely I'll be going to heaven if I were to die now. This is just what he was going through with himself. And then he said, as that was happening, he actually was in the presence of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah asked him a question. He said he could not remember exactly what is the question that Yahuwah asked him, but he knows that it had to do with family. And so he then answered the question. And so he says, in fact, before answering that question, he said that he was in a situation where there was no influence of either good or bad. So as Yahuwah asked him that question, there was no one to help him to answer that question correctly. Neither there was anyone to deceive him to answer the question wrong. He was on his own. He was by himself. Which also I also talk about this, that people don't realize this, that on Judgment Day you will be on your own. You're not going to be going with your children and be standing before the judgment of Yahuwah. You're not going to be standing with your husband or your spouse. You're not going to be standing with your pastor. You're not going to be standing with anyone. And it will just be you and Yahuwah, who is the just judge, who will reveal to you everything that you did, and who is, I use the term, he's not a fair judge, it's not about fairness, but he's just. He will judge accordingly as a just judge. In this experience that then Buhosi, as my son, was having, he was then in that situation where there was no assistance either from the Holy Spirit or the Ruach HaKodesh, neither was the devil or Hasatan to tempt him to answer it incorrectly. But he then answered the question, and then Yahuwah said, good job, which means you gave the right answer. And then he says, as soon as he answered, there were noises in heaven and happiness, and it was getting louder and louder. Remember, I said, he mentioned that this question, although he doesn't remember what it was, but it had to do with our loved ones, it had to do with family, or families. And so after then answering this question, and everyone celebrating and the noises and clapping of hands, then he was welcomed into heaven. And he then says, no, I'm not ready to be in heaven right now, and I'm not ready to leave my family, I'm not ready to leave my loved ones. And Yahuwah said that I knew that it is not your time yet, and then he came back on earth. So it's more like a near-death experience, or a trance experience, where Yahuwah gave him an opportunity or revealed to him the events which are to come, that it shall come a time where there will not be any influence on the decisions that we're making, whether good or bad. Just like in the 1,000 years, there will also not be influence of Hasatan, because he will be bound for that 1,000 years. We'll then stop this event at this point in time, and then we'll take a short break, and then we'll then go to the last event, which is the 8th day, which will also, in the 8th day, will also cover the second resurrection, because on the first one we spoke about the first resurrection, we didn't speak about the second resurrection. And what is the 8th day, as I explained in the 7 days. Shalom.